if I'm not mistaken, it was the Alter Rebbe who had a dream, like a dream mission. One of the Rabbi, I don't remember exactly, I think it was the Alter Rebbe, that he wishes that Hasidim would discuss Yichud HaIla'a and Yichud HaTata walking down the street.
What's that?
He had a dream, like the famous Martin Luther King, I have a dream. So the Alter Rebbe's I have a dream was that Hasidim would walk down the street and they would discuss between themselves Yichud HaIla'a, the highest unity of Hashem, and Yichud HaTata'a, the lower unity of Hashem. So that's why in our shir we're going to put an emphasis on this discussion. What does it mean? What do we need to talk about?
So if you sit at the bus stop just down the street, you hear that as the students are coming out of Sha'ar HaYichud.
Yafeh. So, okay. I'll speak about that as well. So first of all, we've got to understand what is Yichud HaIla'a and Yichud HaTata'a. And second of all, to understand, okay, so what... That's the main question. What is Yichud HaIla'a and Yichud HaTata'a also in our personal lives? So, time and space, we said that's something important, right? We don't want to lose track of time. We don't want to lose our space. That's something important. That's the world. That's the Am. Malchut, the kingdom of Hashem is based on that.
Also, different spaces have different significance and different meaning. So this is why we need our space and our land, because we can't do it anywhere else.
So, so what is Yichud HaIla'a and what is Yichud HaTata'a? These two levels, generally speaking, are the bus comes down to your office or you go up to his. The bus, in the parable, the bus refers to Hashem. And our office is our world around us. So it's either the world goes up to Hashem, or Hashem comes down to our world. So we've got to find examples to try and explain this idea.
Prayer versus study.
Sorry?
Prayer versus study.
Prayer versus study. Explain what you mean.
Prayer is you're going up to Hashem.
Prayer is?
Going up.
Going up to Hashem, okay.
And study, he comes down to our office.
Okay. I think that's a good example. I guess we could say it in two directions.
The ladder.
Because usually, sorry?
The ladder.
It's the ladder of climbing up. It's the ladder of climbing up. Okay.
But we can meet Hashem at any rung on the ladder.
Yafeh, that's the point. So you can meet Hashem at any point, but that is the difference between how strong this yichud, this unity will be. If you are on level 1 on that ladder, then your unity with Hashem is going to be on a lower level. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's Yichud HaTata'a, which means it's more Hashem coming down to you than you're going up to Him. And the higher we climb, the higher we become united and connected to Him. So I want to speak about your example, and I want to bring it as it's brought in most places in the opposite direction of what you said, but still the idea is the same. When we daven, what is the primary idea of davening? If we take a look at our siddur and we open our siddur, it's finding Hashem within the world. Finding Hashem within the world, the examples are from, you read Baruch Sha'ar HaYichud. You read Ashrei Yoshvei Beisecha. All of these prayers are praises of King David saying to Hashem, what a magnificent world you created, and it's a privilege to live over here. So where are we bringing the world up to Hashem, or are we bringing Hashem down to the world? We are bringing Hashem down to the world. In other words, we are finding Him here in the world itself. But the world does not change. King David did not say, you know what, this volcano or a hurricane or a tornado storm, it's all Hashem. He said it's all Hashem's hand, but he puts a big emphasis on the tornado itself. So the more you bring the world higher and connected to Hashem, the less you speak about what you see around you, the more you speak about Him. And after that we go to the discussion of the lights, Yotzer HaMeorot, that Hashem creates, the angels that Hashem creates. And yes, the ultimate idea is to speak directly to Hashem at in Tfilat Shmona Esrei, which also the majority of Shmona Esrei is what? What are we praying for? Our personal needs, what we want. So we are dragging Hashem, bringing Hashem into our life, into our world. By the way, that is why davening, it says in the Zohar, Sha'as Tzleisa, Sha'as Krava, which means the time of prayer is the time of a war. Why is it a war? Who are we fighting? We're fighting our animal soul. Because our animal soul says, don't look at Hashem and find Hashem within the wonders of nature. Come, I will show you another wonder of nature. I'll show you a cheeseburger. That's a wonder of nature. And so we've got to fight it. We've got to say, I'm not interested in that. I want to find Hashem in my life in the kosher way to live. So that's why it's a battle. That is Yichud HaTata'ah, the lower level of the Achdut of Hashem. So, for example, Mordechai was saying that students that come out of the yeshivas or the kolelim here in Sha'ar HaChesed, they stand at a bus stop and they speak about the Gemara that they learned. So perhaps it's not about the topic of Yichud HaElah, bringing examples, maybe it is, I don't know. But that is essentially the idea of Yichud HaTata'ah, where you're walking on a random day, you're catching the bus, you finished your studies, but you still are continuing to discuss what you learned. You're bringing Hashem into your life. You're bringing Him onto the bus. That is Yichud HaTata'ah. It's easier for us to relate to Yichud HaTata'ah to the lower level because we don't have to give up much of who we are. This is like what's happening in my life, on my day-to-day life. I speak about Hashem. You know what? It doesn't have to be through opening a book. You can go home, you can tell your wife, you can tell a friend, whatever it is, wow, I had a wonderful day, thank Hashem. That is Yichud HaTata'ah, bringing Hashem into your life. And then there is Yichud HaElah, and that's connected more to Torah. Yichud HaElah, it's harder to find examples for that, but that's the moments where the world is elevated and reconnect to its source. It's like you going up to the boss's office. And you know when you get a call from the boss's office, you're nullified. Whatever it means, it's like he's got something, he comes down to your office, so he's got something to tell you. But the moment you've got to go up there, you come in to hear a new, whatever it is. You're coming to hear about your new raise or your new promotion.
Or you're going to get fired.
I wanted to speak about the positive things. But yeah, you know that you're going up. So when, and this is a question for you, when do you think the world loses its boundaries? Not really, because the world doesn't really disappear, not in every case, and gets to a status of Yichud HaElah, the unity where the world is called to the boss's office.
So at the end of the day, it's changing our level of consciousness.
100%.
Reality.
NACHLAOT. Right. That is why Hasidim, by the way, there are a lot of, it's a good point that you're saying, because Hasidim never ever took the world that seriously. It's all within the boundaries of what Hashem wants. At the end of the day, what we see around us, it's not, there's no authority. There's a whole question, is there a high authority in the world or not? Is there like a supreme person to listen to? You have to, that's a bit of a different question, but how fierce is the obstacle that is in front of me? Okay, I'm facing a certain challenge. You don't have to take it. Hasidim used to say, Lechatchila Rebbe. What does that mean? The Rebbe Marash was the one to introduce it. And as time goes by, Hasidus became more and more relevant, and the concepts became more and more developed within the world. So one of the concepts is Lechatchila Rebbe. So you walk into any office, you got two options. You can go to the secretary, or you can go to the guard in the front. You can say, oh, I want to come in, I want to discuss this or that. Did you book an appointment? Are you sure that you are allowed to come now? Then trouble starts. That's it. The moment you see the face of the secretary in the front, usually, from here, it's going to be not an easy process. You got to work your way up. And then there are those that say, I'm to the manager's office. Once you say it, with such bitachon, so no one has any questions. You go straight to the manager's office, and sometimes you can solve problems much easier. So that is lechatchila riber. Not going and working your way up, but going straight ahead, straight to the front desk, to the main place that you have to be. Yeah. And where does that power come from? It's because the world is not as scary as it seems. Okay, so the doctor said that. Does the doctor make decisions? He cannot make decisions. So many times, that's what Hashem wants, and Hashem gives the power to the doctor. We're not trying to suggest that you shouldn't go to doctors at all. But this is where bitachon v'Hashem is so important. Because the doctor does not make the decisions. Sometimes the world can be elevated and could change, and if it's called to the boss's office, to Hashem's office, Hashem might have different decisions / different ideas. That's why the best tool the Rabbi ever gave to the Hasidim was to consult with at least 2 doctors, and many times a third.
All within the Kavi or outside the Kavi? No.
Within the coverage of your insurance. Okay. But not necessarily. If you feel like there's one opinion and you're not so happy about that opinion, you went to another doctor, it's also the same opinion, you want to try see if there's maybe a different solution for that. So the Rebbe said, go consult with a different doctor outside. Sometimes you got to pay for it, but it will give you the Yishuv Hadas. You'll be a bit calmer afterwards when you've heard it from a third doctor.
So you're saying that the Siddim feel that Hashem has a say in everything that's going on.
Yes.
For us. So that tells me that my friend Kanok should actually have empathy for the protesters.
Yeah.
Because they don't have that going for them.
What don't they have going for them?
That someone's in control.
The knowledge.
They're living in a complete mystery novel horror movie.
Yeah.
And they're out of control and they don't know what to do.
You are leading us to the next part of what the Alter Rebbe says. And not only that, the Alter Rebbe speaks about the source to their mistake. And the Alter Rebbe uses very nice words like you're using. The Alter Rebbe says, "Mehina mikan yesh lahavin shigagas miktsas chachamim." Here we can understand how some of the wise people, that when the Alter Rebbe says wise people, it's not only smart professors in university, not at all. These are qualified rabbis, big tzaddikim, that studied Torah, but they made a mistake. Hashem yechaper ba'adav. Hashem should forgive them. Sheshagu v'ta'u be'iyunam. They made a mistake looking through the writings of the Arizal, and they understood the idea of tzimtzum kipshutai. Soon we'll speak about tzimtzum kipshutai, tzimtzum lo kipshutai. But the idea that of yichuda ila'ah, so I gave a small example where a person says, you know what, the doctor tells him A, and the person says, you know what, no, I'm not prepared to go through with that. I'm going to consult with 2 other doctors. Okay? Now, I'll tell you a secret. If you tell that to a doctor, the doctors don't really like that idea. They don't like the idea, even though, by the way, it's your right, and that's what it says, to consult, and not only to your right, but they should encourage you to hear a second opinion. Because doctors, they understand things in one way. It's like, that's it. There's nothing else. So that is connected more to Yichud HaElah. That's a higher stage in climbing that ladder. We are on a new level. Level number one is when everything goes smooth and you want to introduce Hashem to your life. So you say, wow, Hashem, thank you for the beautiful weather outside. Or thank you for a wonderful Shabbos. Or you recognize Hashem in your life in other places, wherever it might be. You see divine providence, the way Hashem places certain things. That's level number one. That's what King David told us. That's how we start our davening. But then we start climbing the ladder, and now we can talk back to doctors. That's not as easy. You've got to come with bitachon b'Hashem. You don't want to just you've got to know that you're doing the right thing. So that, with the bitachon b'Hashem, that's already a higher level of unity. Any other examples where we could climb the ladder more and more and become united? But we don't want to fall off the ladder. That's very important also. Falling off the ladder means literally like someone saying, you know what, I'm just in Hashem's hands. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not even gonna go see a doctor. Why do I need to see a doctor? I'm gonna open Tehillim, and that's what I'm gonna do all day. Just say Tehillim. Hashem says you've got to do your effort, you've got to do your ishtadlut. So make sure that when you climb this ladder, you don't fall off. That's part of what Hashem wants from us. But nevertheless, there are ideas of Yichud HaElah. There's one example what happens in Yichud HaElah, something that is similar to Yichud HaElah, is Shabbos, and that's what we've been learning about Chanoch. Shabbos is a time that the world is elevated and the world feels differently. Perhaps you feel it, perhaps you taste it in the Shabbos food, perhaps it's the davening on Shabbos, perhaps it's what you learn on Shabbos, but yes, the world is elevated to a higher level. It's a higher madrega. That's what it is. That's reality. So that's more of an example of Yichud HaElah. Perhaps, maybe. All of what we're doing now, we're discussing Yichud HaElah, Yichud HaTata. This is the I have a dream of the Alter Rebbe. That was his dream, that we should discuss our lives, and not only our lives, but examples to see what is Yichud HaElah, what is Yichud. Any other examples for a higher type of unity with Hashem?
I think it's to go through the process of learning the intellectual sphere, the seven emotional sphere, and forming a foundation of malchut that connects back to the Ein Sof.
So, generally speaking, the more you learn, especially the more you learn Hasidut, the more you feel the unity of Hashem. You're right. The more you learn about the Sfirot, the more you learn about Hashem's existence, that gives us more of a feeling of unity. You know, if you don't know the person, if you don't know who he is, then what are you gonna think about? What are you gonna contemplate? So, going back to your example that you said initially of davening and learning definitely is climbing a higher ladder. And I'll tell you an example for that. It's because we just had a shiur last night. And in that shiur, what happened is that we were discussing a topic that isn't even relevant to us. It's the whole idea of tum'at met, the impurity that a dead body can cause. Now, we are all tamei met on one way or another if we visited a cemetery. So that's it, we are tamei met. Sometimes we don't even know it. But we learned all the halachot. Why does the Rambam speak about it? It applies to the times that we will bring korbanot, Bezrat Hashem, today. But in theory, it's like people going and learning, even today when people learn history, you say, there's a reason that you learn history because you can learn a lot from it also today. Like history repeats itself. So you could learn about it. But anyone that goes to study, today they have a lot of these fields at university, they study fine art. Fine art is also, but like all these topics that are not relevant, it's like there's no purpose. You're not going to get credits you'll get credits, but you're not going to get, how do you say, a milga? You're not going to get a paid.
Scholarship.
You're not going to get a scholarship or a job. So it's like, it's pointless. But Torah is different. Torah has the power to elevate us. And that's why the same way as we learn about something that applies to us, we also learn about things that do not apply to us. And that's beautiful about the Rambam. And not only that, but the more we learn about Kabbalah, Hasidut, that's even a higher level because we're not dealing with materialism. It's one thing if you learn about two people fighting over a cow, who does that cow belong to, and what does the Gemara say about that, what does the Rambam say about it, what does the Shulchan Aruch say about that. That is one thing. But there's another thing, learning about the spirits, about the angels, about Hashem's existence, about what we're doing now. It's like, okay, what am I going to go and do with it? There's nothing that we have to do with it. It's just awareness and acknowledgement about exactly about Hashem's existence. And the more we are aware, the more we are connected to Him. And that is Yichud HaElah. Yes, Mark. What is your answer?
The Bershlet Street has an interesting tradition of putting a chair out in the middle of a forest, away from all of civilization, and for a time of prayer and contemplation. And what that does is that isolates you from the things of the world, from society and the noise and the distractions, and allows you to concentrate and reestablish those connections with Hashem that have gotten overshadowed.
Okay. That's a good example. It's called Hitbodedut. Shalom Abraham, welcome. It's called Hitbodedut. Person gives himself a bit of a break. Right, like you described, in the middle of a forest. Yeah.
So the original example was air versus forest. But then you go to the opposite view. And I think that working in the office is doing mitzvah, not necessarily praying. Or praying is a mitzvah.
No, but mitzvahs is even more than that. Mitzvahs is like the bricks that we lay to build a house. So that's dealing with the will of Hashem, what exactly He wanted. Also in the computers, there's the hard drive and there's the software. Hardware and software. Hardware is the chumrah, you have to have it in place, you've got to have the wires connected, you've got to have the everything, But the software is more virtual. So that is, the mitzvahs are like the hardware. You've got to wrap the tefillin. It's not just enough thinking about the tefillin. You've got to actually wrap it. By the way, connected to our parsha, or to the previous parsha, Yaakov also put on tefillin. But his tefillin that he put on were through his kavanot, when he contemplated, while he placed the staff, the several staffs that he placed there in front of the sheep. So the reason that he just placed it like this and like this was all kavanot, all intentions that he had in his mind, the unity of Hashem that we should also have in mind when we put on tefillin. But he didn't actually put on tefillin, he was doing the meaning behind it. That was the way our forefathers observed mitzvah. They didn't observe mitzvah like we do it, they couldn't. They did it in different ways, in different forms. More kind of a spiritual, it's like someone that's very good in planning. Okay, there are people that are more practical, there are people that are better in planning. So like in the theory, you can be 100%, but you've got to bring it l'maaseh. Our forefathers, they did all the planning. What is a mitzvah, tefillin? They did it in a certain way through contemplation and other actions. There was no holiness that was connected to it, to the object, to the physical object. And we do the practical side of things. We are mainly into the practical side of things. We don't have to think all these kavanot like they do.
But the problem I'm having with the metaphor is if you get called to the office, it's at most 1/40th of your work week. But to me, studying is what I do, what I like to do, and what I probably do better than davening, for example.
Yeah, but listen, it's in your hands. First of all, it's not an iron connection, right? Sometimes, again, these are levels and levels, and this is the discussion Alter Rebbe wanted us to have: is what level is your Yichud HaElah when you feel like you're called into office? The ultimate call into office.
Get a message from you to come here.
Then it's only about a raise.
Okay.
So, so that is. So these are all just examples within our world, within what we are going through, about these two concepts of Yichud HaIla'ah and Yichud HaTata'ah. So I'll give you another example of Yichud HaIla'ah, which is even higher than Yichud HaTata'ah, and that is, does Hashem know what will be in the future?
Yes, but it's not the future too.
Okay, you're already giving some kind of an answer. But Hanoch, let's say, does he know what you're going to do in 10 minutes' time?
If he's omniscient, he knows past, present, and future.
Okay, yeah, fair. Raphael, does he know what you're going to eat for lunch, for supper?
Yeah.
Yeah. We could all agree on that. Hashem is a being, is an existence that's way beyond our limitations, way beyond what we can comprehend and understand. And therefore, Hashem knows what is going to be tomorrow morning. Or he knows where, last night we were just discussing the Syrian regime, and then it was like maybe there still is some kind of chance. This morning you wake up, and it's like, okay, it's a done deal, that's it. So Hashem knew that when we were discussing it, Motzei Shabbos and the Shir, Hashem already knew it. Okay. Within this knowledge of Hashem, there are two paths that we can take. We can take Yichud HaIla'ah and Yichud HaTata'ah. There are two ways that Hashem could know the future. There is level number one where Hashem could know the future because he can travel in time. Past, present, and future. Hashem basically, it's like, let's say, do you know now what's happening in Australia? No, because I don't know I'm not there. But if you were able to travel back and forth within 10 seconds, so you could tell us exactly what's happening in Australia right now. Who can travel? Hashem could.
It's like a time machine.
It's like a time machine. So we could say that Hashem, because he created all this olam, and he's higher than time, he's got a time machine that he could travel. So when he knows where you're going to go right after the shir, that's because he actually speeded up the time a bit and said, oh, let's take a look at Hanoch. Okay, he's walking back home, whatever. He sees you. He comes back to us and he tells us your path. That's one way of Hashem knowing the future, and Hashem also being connected to space. Space as well, it's the same concept. Like we said, for us to travel to Australia now, it's impossible. You'll arrive there in 17 hours. It's like, not only that, this applies to laws in the Gemara. That one of the questions that they had to witnesses, if you want to be a witness, is where were you while this happened? Okay, so you say, I was in Yerushalayim. And if there are other witnesses that say, wait a second, we saw you in Tiberia 2 hours before. So the rabbis have to think, can a person travel from Tiberia to Yerushalayim within 2 hours? Today, perhaps it's possible. In the times of the Mishnah said no. It's impossible, so that is a way that we could contradict those witnesses. That's why you've got to say where you were at that time. For Hashem, is that a problem? No. Hashem also defies space in a certain way. This path, this level, is called Yichud HaTata'ah, although it seems like it's magnificent, wow, it's unbelievable, but it's Hashem going down to our office, going down to the world, and playing within the rules of the world, where time exists, but you can travel in time, you can speed things up. Space exists, but you can do it very, very quickly. That is the lower level of unity of Hashem. Hashem can change rules that exist within the world. I'll soon give you an example from the miracle of Hanukkah. But then, there is another reason, this is what the Alter Rebbe speaks about in length, that there's a different reason why Hashem knows what you're going to eat for lunch or for supper. It's because everything happens within Him. All of what's happening here, this is all part of the existence of Hashem. So the same way that you know your arm, your hand, your whatever it is, your head, your eyes, your ears, the same way that you know that you have that level of awareness, the same thing Hashem has the level of awareness when it comes to what's happening here in the world. He doesn't need to travel in time. It's all happening within him. He knows it before it happened because it's like it already has happened. It's a higher level of the unity of Hashem. I'll give you an example from the miracles of Hanukkah, which is a good example for Yichud Eilah, Yichud HaTzatzit, because that's what's brought down in the Exodus. There were 2 miracles that happened on Hanukkah. What was the first miracle that happened?
Winning the battle.
Winning the battle. Perfect. Perfect. The Greeks, by the way, we had a fascinating lecture on astrology according to Judaism. It was in Hebrew. We had it a year ago in English, and we had it also in Hebrew now. And the concept of astrology is used all around, but not necessarily in the right way. People say a lot of general ideas that apply to many people. So it's like you go to an astrologist and you say, okay, how's this week going to look for me? And he says, listen, you'll see an opportunity. Or you might feel a bit stressed. It's like, okay, that's, but people, they still pay a lot for that.
It's general.
General, exactly. And it's sometimes too general. So it's not, this doesn't really mean much to us. But what this rabbi showed us is he showed us the ways that the planets are placed on significant dates. And he took Milchemet Sheshet HaYamim, the 6-Day War, which is the 5th of June, 1967, and he has a program on his computer that he's able to see the positions of all the planets. And he saw that the position of the planets was exactly the same as it was when the Hashmonaim won the battle over the Greeks. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. That was one example. He showed us also that the planets they killed Ismail Haniya in Tehran. They killed another person, I think, by the name of Yihya, not Sinwar, but he was known as the engineer of the terrorist organizations, and they killed him in Malta. He left his restaurant or the hotel, and they just killed him there. So he shows that also the planets were in the same position when that happened. We know Tisha B'Av, unfortunately from Jewish history, Tisha B'Av, terrible things happened on that day. The burning of a Sefer Torah, the burning of the first temple, the second temple. And that is because the planets were placed, and they do a circle every 84 years, and they hit a certain point, and it's not that the planets have the authority to do it. Hashem has the authority. But when Hashem does it, he does it on a certain day. That's why Tisha B'Av, don't go on a hike. Don't go swimming in the sea on Tisha B'Av. Don't go on any adventure on that day. Because that's what they say, be careful, all the 9 days. Because those are days that if Hashem wants to bring something bad, Chas v'Shalom La'aleinu, to Am Yisrael, he will bring it on such a day. We were sitting at the Fabregan on Shabbat, and there's someone that's studying now history, and he just told us that the Romans came, and then when they came to conquer the land, they came to a city by the name of Gamla. Have you heard of Gamla? There's Ramla, there's Gamla. Gamla is like an ancient city, and there's even a wine, I think, called Gamla. Right.
Gamla's in the Galilee somewhere.
In the Galilee. So what's so interesting about the city of Gamla is that the Romans came during Sukkot. They stormed the houses. They saw that no one's at home, and they saw these houses, these like Sukkot. They didn't know what to call it, but they called it Sukkot. They looked around. They saw, and the walls were pretty solid, but they saw on the roof there's this just like schach. So they said, you know what? We're going to jump from the roofs straight. We'll storm down and like attack them from above. And the Jews were there waiting with their spears in the Sukkot, and that's how they got them. They hid them. But the Romans came back. On what day did they come back? Simchat Torah. And they pretty much conquered the city, killed a lot of people there. So Simchat Torah we see, that's also, I didn't know that, but Simchat Torah a year ago, the terrible massacre that happened. So that's just a drop about the concept of astrology and planets and stars, etc. So back to what we're learning here is, why does Hashem know what will be in the future? Not because he travels to the future. Why does he know what's happening now in Australia? It's not because he has such a big, such a good eyesight that he can stand here and see what's happening in Australia. No. It's because it's all happening within him. He is the existence. It's him. Now this is something that we cannot understand. This is what the Rambam speaks about also, and the Alter Rebbe tells us again and again that it's something that we can say it out, but we cannot really understand it. Why? Because we are built out of a lot of things that happen. A child is born. He doesn't know how to talk. He doesn't know languages. He doesn't know events. And all of these things, knowledge that we call knowledge, are added to his being. Hashem, there's nothing added to Hashem's being. You can't say that there's something that is added to his being, so he's limited. If you say that there's something that's added to him, so he doesn't know it yet. So it means he's lacking knowledge. Is there a language that Hashem does not know? Does Hashem need to know a language? He knows all of it. And what happens if people will come up with a new language? Is Hashem going to need to learn that language itself? Does he need to travel in time to know that language and then go back in time and pretend like he doesn't know it? And then when they discover it, he says, oh, I already know it because I traveled in time. No. Well, so how does he know the language? It's because when people, they come up with this language, it's Hashem coming up with this language. It's in his existence. And perhaps that is the real idea of Yichud HaEmunah. The higher level of unity of Hashem. Everything happens within him. So back to the miracles of Hanukkah, miracle 1 is winning the war. That is Yichud HaTatah, that's the lower level of the unity of Hashem. And why? It's because Hashem did not interfere with the laws of nature. So the Maccabees, when they realized that they won this war, they were like, wait a second. Wow, we beat the Greek Empire. That is finding Hashem in your life. That is bringing Hashem down to your office. They fought. They had to use swords. Some of the Hashmonaim were killed. Not everyone made it until the end. But nevertheless, it's a miracle. And by the way, this is what we see now. If a person thinks about what happened the past year and a few months from Simchat Torah, it's like it's one big miracle. So you've got to bring Hashem into your life. It's not a miracle that defies nature, and that's why some people say, you know what, I'm not sure it's a miracle. And you've got to think about it. You've got to think about what's happening in Syria. And you say, wow, this wasn't even planned initially. It's like, how did that happen? Is it good for us? Is it not good? That's a separate question. But the fact that we were able to beat Hezbollah in such a way, unbelievable. That's bringing Hashem into our lives, because Hashem did not do hocus pocus and turned Lebanon upside down. No. So that's Yichud HaTatah. Here's one. You wanted to mention something? What is the other miracle of Hanukkah? We've got another miracle of Hanukkah. What's that?
I'm confused on that.
We light.
Well, they found enough oil to light the menorahs, but it was only 1 day's worth.
Oh, yefemot. So this is a different type of a miracle. It's finding the oil, and not only finding it, but the oil that was enough for 1 day lasted for 8 days. That is already Yichud HaEmunah. That is Yichud HaEmunah. Why? Because the laws of nature don't apply there.
But did they burn?
That's like Hashem saying, you know what? For me, if you have 10 milliliters of oil, it's like you have 100. Wait a second. It doesn't work like that according to nature. The amount of oil that you have, that's what's going to last. And Hashem says no. Hashem could change the laws of nature. That is already Yichud HaEmunah. Hashem says, you know what? Wait a second. I want to bring this world up to my level. So that's the idea. That's the difference between these two types of miracles. Yes.
And the third miracle is that although we didn't have enough to be able to fulfill the requirements of what Hashem had set out for us, but we made the attempt, and Hashem filled in the gap until we were able to reestablish what its requirements were.
Yefe. So this is something that by nature it's impossible. I want to show you something very interesting now. So the miracle of winning the war, by the way, that was on the 24th of Kislev. We said that miracle is Yichud HaTata'ah. What else is Yichud HaTata'ah? Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Levi. We said Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. That is Yichud HaIla'ah. That's the higher level of unity. Baruch Shem is the lower level of unity. Let's go and count the letters that we can find within Baruch Shem. Okay, Baruch, we have a Bet, Resh, Vav, Chaf, that's 4, Shem, 2, 6, we have another 4, Kavod, that's 10, so we have to 10, Malchuto, we have Mal, Chu, To, that's 6, we have to 16, we have Le'olam, which is 5, 16 and 5 is 21, and Va'ed, 3, which makes it 24. 24 letters with Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto L'Olam Va'ed. 24th of Kislev, the day of the victory of the war. That is all the level of Yichud HaTata'ah, the lower level of the unity of Hashem. Hashem does not interfere with nature. You find Hashem within nature. That's different. And then we have Yichud HaIla'ah. We've got the higher level, which that miracle started. Which date? When do we start celebrating Hanukkah? The next day, the 25th of Kislev. So let's see Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, how many letters we have there in Shema Yisrael. Want to guess? 25. Shema Yisrael, we have Shema, 3, we have another 5, that's 8. We have Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, that's 4, that's 12. We have another 6, which is 18. We have another 4, which is the name of Hashem, which is 22. And we have Echad, which is 3, gives us 25. Okay? So this is just like an example to show this is already the external. This is the expression of what happens in the root, in the source of these miracles. That's how it's expressed on the 24th day. That's how it's expressed on the 25th day.
What is the relationship
between
the 24th of... So the 22nd of December is the shortest day of the year on the Gregorian calendar.
Yeah.
Is the 24th of Kislev the shortest day of the year on the Jewish calendar?
It would be interesting to see. But there's a famous Gemara on that in Masechet Avodah Zarah about the fact that, by the way, Christianity did not come up with this idea of celebrating during that time. Yeah.
There may be a problem because the 24th of Kislev will swing back and forth because it's based on the lunar cycles. On the shortest day of the year, it's based on the solar cycle. So the two don't coincide on a yearly basis.
Yeah, fair. And that's because we don't really celebrate the shortest day of the year. The Gemara says that when Adam Harishon left Gan Eden, what day did he leave Gan Eden? Right at the beginning. Hashem kicked him out. That he was created. The day that he was created, he was pretty much sent out. It was a Friday, the 6th day, Rosh Hashanah, Aleph, and he was sent out. So he noticed that as time goes by, the days are becoming shorter and shorter. So he was scared that that means that the day of judgment is coming, or the day that the world's going to be destroyed. Because Hashem told him, that's it, you're going to die. He ate from the wrong tree. So he was so scared, and then the day became again shorter and shorter and shorter until, like you said, the 22nd. What's that? The 22nd of December. That's the shortest day. And then on the 23rd, he saw that the days getting a bit longer. So that was a sign that Hashem, for some reason, is delaying it or punishing him in a different way. But the world is not going to just disappear. So that's why, by the way, it became a bit of a pagan holiday as well. So the whole idea of Xmas and that is built and founded on an existing holiday that people used to celebrate for generations. So that's interesting. That's just one nakuda. So we said these two examples of Yichud HaEmunah and Yichud HaTata. What's the time now? Do we have
5-2.
5-2. Okay, so we still are going to discuss the topic of Tzimtzum. We'll speak about that in the next year. We'll continue chapter 7. We'll bring new copies as well. But these are the ideas of Yichud HaEmunah and Yichud HaTata. And if you want, you have also a bit of homework to try and find in your life, not in your personal life, it could be in things around you, where do you see Hashem on a level of Yichud HaEmunah, and where do you see him on a level of Yichud HaTata? Which means, where do you need to drag Hashem into your life and try and find him, with things that happen? And where do you feel like, well, Hashem just gave me a big hug and he just schlepped me up?
Dylan sings about that.
Yeah.
If I can't get up to you, you'll have to come down to me sometime.
He had a Yiddish and a Sham.
Yeah.
Some people say that he met the Rabbi, I think.
Yes. They were.
So talk about Hashem as being omniscient, all-knowing, and all-complete.
Yeah.
But Midrash Rehavia keeps on talking about that Hashem has the need for us to acknowledge him.
Yeah.
So
that's the beauty within Yichud HaTata. That's the beauty within the lower level. We'll also speak about that, because nevertheless Hashem could have just kept the world in a status of Yichud HaEmunah in the first place. Why does he create us? He needs us in a certain way. But we'll discuss that. There are always two sides to everything.